All right, so I'm on the solar car rules page for the solar car challenge, and what I'm looking at is section 5 solar car regulations. First one, 5.1.1, tells me the dimensions of the solar car, so it can be no bigger than 5 meters. It can be no higher, 5 meters long, 1.6 meters high, and 1.8 meters wide. So it would have to fit inside of a cube like this, technically, in order for the car to meet specifications. And the rules also state that the minimum height is 1 meter high, so it can't be so low to the ground that a person can't sit up inside of it. It's important to note here that any sort of fins or antennas or anything like that, in the spirit of the rules, cannot be used to make the minimum height requirement. So you can't make a really tiny car that sits really super low to the ground and then just put an antenna on it to make it 1.8 meters high. And the next part of the rules here, 5.1.2, says that the vehicle must employ a 3 or 4 wheel design. And they strongly suggest that if you're going to go with a 3-wheel design, that you put your third wheel in the rear of the vehicle. So let's say that we're going to create a teardrop solar car or something like that, where the front is facing down right now, and maybe the back is like a teardrop shape. Not saying that this is what we're going to build, but if we were going to build something like that, what they want to see is that your wheels are in the front. The 2 wheels are in the front, and the third wheel is somewhere in the rear, like that, and the car would be traveling down the road this way. There's some great footage of the Reliant Robin, which is a car that had the reverse design of this, where it had 1 wheel in the front and 2 wheels in the rear. And that car rolled over all the time. It's actually really funny and sad because people got hurt. But the much more stable configuration is to have the 2 wheels in the front and the third wheel in the back. Or we could always go ahead and make a car that has 4 wheels. I mean, you could modify the teardrop shape to have a wheel like here and here, something like that. I mean, it really doesn't matter where you put them, but that's a conversation for the team to come up with if we're going to go with a 3-wheel design or a 4-wheel design. This rule also specifies that they strongly suggest that for vehicle stability, that the ratio of the track, which is the distance between the 2 front wheels, the distance from, let's do a different color, the distance from here to here, should be no less than half the wheelbase. So what the wheelbase measurement is the distance from the center of the rear wheel to the center of the front wheel. That would be the wheelbase. And this distance here, the track distance, shouldn't be less than half of that. And the reality of the situation is the further apart that the tires are from each other, the more stable the vehicle will be. So this rule is intended to tell us that they don't want us to take take this rear wheel here and push it forward so far that it's like here, and then the vehicle is super unstable because it's on a very short wheelbase, right? And this rule is also specifying that they don't want the track to vehicle height to be less than 1-to-1. So whatever the width of the track is, they also want that to be at least equal to the height of the vehicle or wider than the height of the vehicle. They don't want you to have a very skinny, tall vehicle because it won't be stable, especially in the winds. In my experience with the race, it wasn't very windy on the road race most days, but there were days when it was, and if we had a really tall, skinny vehicle, it would definitely fall over. So having a nice wide track, a low profile vehicle, and the wheels be as far apart as possible, I think that makes the most sense. But again, that's up to the team to decide. The next part of the rule does say that the front wheels must do the steering, so we can't have a rear wheel steering vehicle, but any one of these tires can be the driving tire. So you can put the motor back here, motor up here, motor up here, or you can have 3 motors. It could be a 3-wheel drive vehicle. I'm not sure what the most efficient design is. We would have to test that. But they say that any one of these or all of them can be driven, but the front wheels must be the ones that do the steering. It's also really important to state that the white paper on the Solar Car League tells us that we should start our design with 3 basic components, and the first one we should start with are the solar cells themselves. If we don't know the efficiency or the type of solar cells that we're going to get, we're we may be shooting ourselves in the foot by building a car at all, because the overall shape dimensions of the car should revolve around the shape of the array, which is the solar cells that we're going to purchase. It seems like the second design consideration that they find to be the most important is the motor. And then the third design consideration that they find to be the most important are the wheels. And those three things are where you start, and then you kind of build your shape around that. You know, we have to make a decision if we want it to be aerodynamic for our first year. Do we think that's a little too ambitious? Or do we want to make a car that just has a flat roof where the entire surface of the car is loaded with solar panels? Right? That's a tactical decision. We need to come up with a strategy for what we're going to try to do here. Are we going to try to be a car that maybe takes in a little bit less power, but overall uses less power because it's more aerodynamic? Does that work with the type of race we're going to be in, right? It seems that this first year is a track race, so we're not really worried about traffic or stopping. It's going to be just running the entire time. So I think as a team, we need to follow this motto. We want to maximize gains and minimize losses in everything that we do, right? So we want to get the most solar power in as possible, and we want to use as least energy moving through the air as possible, right? And this is true for days when it's really sunny outside or days when it's not sunny outside. So we really need to think about the design of the car from this perspective. This is the whole game, right? The whole game is right here. How do we get the most power from the sun? And how do we use the least amount of that power to actually drive the vehicle? If we start from that perspective, I think we will be able to create a vehicle that can travel at higher speeds using only solar power. This way, we can run at those higher speeds using only solar power, and we don't really need to dip into our battery reserves unless we need to. Like instances where we've fallen behind, if we had some kind of a technical difficulty and we lost some of our miles, or we wanted to improve our time, we can dip into our battery power to try to like overtake another team. Or on the first day, if our strategy is to get out in front of all the other solar cars, we might want to deplete our battery on the first day or get our battery lower on the first day. And then on the subsequent days, maybe once we're in the lead, we can kind of hang back a little bit. You know, it really all depends on our strategy. But if we start from the perspective that the entire car needs to maximize the gains from the sun and minimize the losses due to friction, heat, wind resistance, things like that, I think we're going to have a really great car right off the bat. And then every year we take a look at that design and we continue to improve upon it. How can we make it lighter? How can we make it stronger? How can we collect more sun? How can we minimize more energy loss, right? How can we do that? Okay, toast is ready, if you heard that. Hopefully this video was helpful. If you have any questions, please reach out.